Ladies and gentlemen, it's a real pleasure to be in front of you here today. And please, while I appreciate the respect, let's leave the professor off and just call me by my first name, as is customary in the United States and really in the digital era. And with that, really, I have to make one small correction. That is that this is not the digital era. This is, in fact, the cognitive era. And by that, I mean something very particular. Digital transformation or digitization is 2010. Cognification, or the cognitive transformation of the economy of society, is 2025. What are we talking about here? Obviously, digital transformation, the internet has transformed the structures of the human society, of the human economy, laying the foundation for data to be transmitted. But that's really all it is. Cognitive transformation or cognification means the fusion of the digital, driven by artificial intelligence, with the biological, driven by genetics, by brain-computer interfaces, with the ecological, driven by climate change. I will give you an example here of what I'm talking about. Already, we can design small groups of molecules that form small so-called organoids, small organs that can be programmed to accept or reject certain viruses or certain genetic transformations. If this goes further, and if we keep succeeding with this, we can in fact program tissue to be hardened against all kinds of things like viruses, like pandemics, as well as radiation. In another turn of events, funny as it is, we are now fusing digital AI with genetics and with mRNA and with cows. You might argue, what do cows have to do with cognification? Well, scientists are already developing cows that are low in methane as they have flatulence. I leave it to your imagination to visualize that one. So we can already genetically engineer both humans and animals to be more resilient toward the biological and the ecological disruptions at hand. I leave it to you to judge the morals and the ethics of this, and I'm sure we have plenty of opportunity later to discuss this. When we talk about cognification, really what we're talking about is the new operating system of globalization 2.0. And I promised some of you yesterday that were at the investor dinner that what you're going to get from me here today is a macro-level landscape, as it were, of all the disruption that is going to happen. And then we're going to talk about use cases in the panels. Cognification breaks down into 5 other C's. The first one is crypto. What's happening in crypto, way beyond blockchain, is of critical importance for the development of artificial intelligence. Cybersecurity, absolutely necessary for trust development. COVID, obviously driving the data economy, but also having trust impact. China, nothing works without China. And climate change of today's key imperative and key threat to human and biotope existence. So let me unpack this a bit and move on. Whoops, going the wrong way here. Let's see, there we are. The 4 processes are not unbeknownst to you. The first process here, of course, is sensing. But when we talk about sensing, we're not just talking about semiconductor-based sensors, we're talking about biological sensors. We're talking about whole body intelligence. Your body, your fingertips, your skin will become part of the digital, of the cognified landscape. And we'll talk about that a bit later. Analyzing, of course, AI and data science. Then learning about new patterns, self-learning, automated decision-making, and finally, responding. There are many routine activities that we can economize, that we can automate. We just have to figure out which ones to ethically and morally and under the safeguards of privacy automate so that people still have jobs. That's a whole nother topic in and of itself. Those are the 4 activities, and they're not just happening in the digital realm on the internet. They will be happening inside our bodies, and I will unpack that for you here now. Shift number 1 in this realm is from products to human product value chains. What does this mean? There's a lamp right above your head. That lamp is now being sensor-enabled. The lamp can understand who is in this room because you might have opted into identification. This lamp can also sense your facial expressions. It can sense whether you are sad, whether you are tired, whether you're healthy, whether you're awake. Why? Because Alexa can do that today when you talk to it. It's already happening. It can discern how you all relate to each other. It can discern what the occupancy rate of this room is. It can discern where people are going when they're leaving this room, because that is of imminent importance to building managers and to public transportation managers. So clearly, as you can see, this is of great importance to certain professions, and you are becoming part of the value chain of AI-enabled products because, frankly, you are even more valuable than the things we build, the material products we build. If we meet your needs, if we make your lives richer, if we can help you be healthier, you will pay more for it than just another widget on your iPhone. So clearly, we are now becoming part of the ecosystem of artificial intelligence as it is fused into the ecological and biological. The most extreme example of this is, of course, Mr. Elon Musk or my good friend Brian Johnson at Kernel, who are now going into the brain. Now imagine this with invasive or non-invasive brain-computer interfaces. We are fusing the 100 billion neurons in your heads. 100 billion, that's a huge number. Today, we can only model about 1,000 of those neurons in interaction with each other. Imagine what will happen in 10 years when we can model 10,000, 100,000, maybe 1 million or 10 million, much less 100 billion, the kind of potential that is unlocked to cure disease, to make you smarter, to make you lead richer lives. Now, that alone is mind-boggling and obviously subject to a lot of ethical debate. Now, fuse that with the 340 trillion IP addresses that we have created in this world. That is the brave new world that Mr. Johnson, Mr. Musk are creating. Many innovators, of course, here in Europe as well. Lots of them in China. It's happening. Not ever in human history have we stopped a major technology thrust from happening. Even though here in Europe we may have sworn off nuclear power for a while, in some countries we may be opposed to genetically modified foods, innovators around the world are forging ahead. It's not stoppable. We must shape it, but it cannot be stopped. So how do we involve ourselves here in Hamburg, here in Germany, in this brave new world? The other shift here is global data flows. While it is true that between 2016 and 2020, we've seen a 10x increase in volume of data, most of this is originating in Asia and, of course, most notably in China. But that is data at rest, and that's a very important concept. Of the 175 or 180 zettabytes per year that Gartner or IDC is forecasting of data being generated by 2025 per year, only 17 zettabytes are actually stored. So the data that you see here is actually stored data. Data moving, data in flow, is still very much centered on the United States. Most of the data flows are between North and South America, North America and Asia, North America and Europe, and to some degree, Europe and Africa, but much less so, because the infrastructure in Africa is just not there yet. That's about to change. Gartner is forecasting, and Cisco is forecasting, about 14% increase in data traffic originating in Africa because of population growth. But for now, America is still the center of activity, and of course, along with it, the global digital platforms. Now, shift number 4 then is from centralized to decentralized cognitive power. We are now at the threshold of decentralizing away from the global platforms. I'm talking about the 456 American ones and the 456 Chinese ones, through new developments such as decentralized data sharing, federated computing, federated algorithms that no longer need to treat data in centralized data systems, crypto and blockchain, few-shot learning, automated data cleaning, low and no-code artificial intelligence. We are seeing this happening now, putting a lot of power into the hands of entrepreneurs that are independent now of global platforms, and that is what needs to happen to unlock innovation. What role will Hamburg play in this brave new world? Or will it? Time is now. Speed and size matter in the digital economy, even with small data coming. you still need to be able to share data across borders. Where is Germany in that brave new world? As we try to mine cognitive gold and insights from all that data, we are not just extracting insights, we're essentially structuring the entire haystack as we look for the needle. Unbelievable potential for all of us to discover new types of personalized healthcare, for instance, just to name one. So the challenge is yours. This presents us with a tremendous data opportunity. We're looking at between $3 and $6 trillion of data value to be extracted. $3 trillion in just cleaning existing data because corporations are too siloed to share data inside and to clean data inside between different departments. Many entrepreneurs, many corporations feel uneasy sharing data across corporate boundaries. And then, of course, there's the still existent centralization of data power in the economy in the global platforms. All of that needs to be cleaned, but as we decentralize, there is a whole nother $3 trillion to be had. And again, what role will Hamburg play in this? How will it harness the global power of talent, of compute power, and of algorithms for itself and for Germany and Europe at large? Shift number 5, we're going from an opaque world of bilateral data trading between global platforms and advertisers, for instance, that is completely cloaked and intransparent to any of us in terms of how pricing dynamics work. I can tell you that I have no clue how much this book will cost tomorrow because it's sold on Amazon and Amazon holds the pricing power. So we need to decentralize in order to put power back into the hands of the entrepreneurs and the consumers and the corporate executives, by the way. As we do that, we need to shift away from cloaked bilateral trading to multilateral trading, like in stock markets. There is no reason to not have a transparent multi-actor stock market with democratized access to data trading. Does that sound wickedly complex? Yes. Do your alarm bells go off right now because of privacy safeguards? Absolutely. But there are designs out there already. We have been working on some, and I'm happy to talk to you about those. There are other mechanisms like Ocean Protocol, for instance. And of course, on a macro level, countries are already working on safeguarding this. We are seeing the emergence of the digital economy partnership here in Asia, China, the Philippines, Singapore, South Korea, and Chile, in fact, joining this. Japan is working on this. The World Economic Forum is working on this. IEEE is working on this. Where is the European Union in that overarching global construct? Busy with itself, no doubt, and it has a signaling impact on everybody else, but we need Europe to project and to be out there as a partner, ideally, and you'll forgive me for my bias, alongside the United States. COVID, of course, has driven data traffic insanely. We're seeing between major exchanges of data around the world between 10 and 33% increase in data traffic. Cisco's WebEx has seen a 24x increase in traffic, and that's not even counting Zoom or Teams or any of the other applications. So yes, we have seen more connectivity, but connectivity does not mean convergence. We have actually seen, as we connect more, an increasing quote-unquote digital smallness. A new study by a colleague of mine at Berkeley has found, David Holtz and about 9 other authors, has found, the study was conducted on 60,000 Microsoft employees, by the way, that their corporate networks inside Microsoft are shrinking with virtual work. They're not expanding. You would think that's counterintuitive. We have more access to more people. But we clamp down and we shrink into the work groups that we know, rather than exploring and embracing serendipity of the proverbial water cooler. So we're seeing digital smallness. We're seeing more and more tribalization. The United States is a very good example, I'm very sorry to say. And we are seeing a retrenchment away from the original promise of the internet to spread us more broadly, to connect us globally, and to create this global sphere, as it were, in which we can all peacefully coincide. Was that a utopia? Most definitely, but it was a utopia that I think was worth aiming for. And instead, we're getting quite the opposite. We have to work on this. We need Europe's input in this because of its human values first approach. Next then is crypto. Crypto is driving the decentralization. I don't know how many of you are into crypto, obviously led by blockchain and others. You don't have to be into the financial part of it to see the tremendous decentralization opportunity here as we're dealing with blockchain, as we're dealing with distributed autonomous organizations. Understand that now many young people are getting into blockchain technologies to do contracts with each other to define what a virtual organization that they want to be part of looks like, what the terms are, what the culture is that they want to live in, without anybody imposing that on them. It's a complete democratization. We'll see where it goes. It might blow up. But remember the year 2000. We had the dot-com bubble. Does that mean the digital economy stopped? No, we're now playing at a higher level. And it'll be exactly the same with DeFi 2.0. It'll blow up. We'll see a cataclysm at some point. We'll see a deflation, but the foundations will remain. So as much as it's overhyped, do not discount its change potential. Next then is cybersecurity. Data is fuel, yes, but it's only a fuel. It is not the currency. Trust is the currency. And if we don't understand that trust is easily lost, then we are giving away currency for free. So we have to safeguard with new approaches. This old approach of behind the firewall crypto cybersecurity is an anathema to what's happening in the world. We need ecosystem security. We need security beyond the firewall. You all need a personal AI-enabled assistant that can help you make sense of the new complex world that will take your agency and defend you rather than you just being beholden to the bots of large organizations like the global platforms. We called that the bouncer bot approach, and you can read about this in our book. And of course, upstream supply chain security reigns supreme. You saw the recent infractions there. So ecosystem security broadly defined, and I'm happy to talk to you more about that as well. It gets a little technical there. Climate change is, of course, the big whopper for all of us. Nothing will work without addressing this. I don't need to have this conversation in this room. Europe is leading in climate change. I'm very happy to see the impending agreement between the Biden administration and Beijing. We'll see whether that sticks, but clearly we have to address it. It is also a key opportunity for us to work with China, because without China and its $350 billion investment in solar, for instance, having huge energy and climate change problems, nothing in the world will work. The United States and China are the biggest polluters. So there is a sweet spot there that is in both of our interests. But we also can bring AI and blockchain to this problem. Imagine if you could log carbon usage in the supply chain. What if you could say for every product, I am logging how much carbon emissions the product is showing? Imagine what you could do with that. You could develop new accounting rules that could put carbon into, let's say, GAAP rules, for instance. You could have better regulation. You could track what's working and what's not working with carbon mitigation for innovation. Make that information available to entrepreneurs so they can go after those gaps. Lots and lots of opportunity here for AI and blockchain in climate change to create the low-carbon economy. And finally, of course, China, and that's the big geopolitical challenge for us all. We're proposing in our new book a new paradigm called Target, Transfer, and Transpose. What does this mean? Everybody is saying that we cannot talk to China. We cannot work with China because China cannot be trusted. A facial recognition technology developed in Europe or in America could be put to use in China for political tracking and control. Yes, it could. But there are technological ways, and some of you and some of my colleagues at Berkeley are already working on this, in order to safeguard this. We can watermark technologies. We can ring-fence technologies. We can make sure that we location track even down to kernels of code. There are technological solutions that are complicated, that are avant-garde, and we need cutting-edge talent for them. But that doesn't mean we should roll over and play dead, because the only way forward is this. There are 7 flows in the economy, and if we bottle them up because China is not part of the mix, because China and America and Europe aren't talking together about the cognitive economy, we're going to create more fragility in today's system because we're pressurizing that system so hard. Think about these flows: currencies, fiat and digital. Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies are creating a parallel economic system right now. Do we want that globally? Is that a good thing for all of us? Let's think about this. People, migration, of course, with climate change. My good friend Parakana has written about this. We are going to see massive amounts of people. What Europe has seen, what Germany has seen with 2 million refugees from the Middle East was just the beginning. We're dealing with 10x that amount coming to Europe at the very least with climate change. And the same for America. And I can tell you I hail from a state that is under fire quite literally, with fires coming, so that even my hometown, Berkeley, is not going to be livable over the next 10 years if projections pan out. So we're all going to be migrating. How are we going to deal with that? Huge pressure. Intellectual property, I don't need to tell you this, between China, the United States, and Europe, big issue. Goods and services, that's always been there. Natural resources, we talked about this. And then DNA and genetic material. The Chinese are very advanced. Some of the viruses that got fought over the last 10 years were fought because of Chinese process technology. Make no mistake about it, they are already cutting edge. So we need to target these problematic technologies to manage these flows, transfer them, watch the transposition, watermark and ring fence, but that does not mean we cannot engage in joint R&D and productization. What does this mean for us today? I'm going to close here in just a minute. We have challenges. We have geopolitical challenges, we have societal challenges, we've got technological, commercial challenges. The geopolitics, we talked about this as well. Two things only, we need a G2.5x. Why 2.5? G2 is the United States and Europe, and here is my call, Europe is a half. We need Europe to step up globally. We need Europe to project its model of the cognitive economy that puts the human forward alongside the United States to become a full global cognitive power. Today, it is not, because it cannot scale out. It has talent, it has science, it has R&D, it is playing at the very peak in those areas, but it cannot scale, and if you cannot scale, you cannot project your voice. We need an East-West balance, Bretton Woods 2.0 for the cognitive economy. Even somebody as doubtful in my mind as Mr. Zuckerberg has called for it, a new Bretton Woods that is inclusive of China as well for the cognitive era, and a plus-sum approach. The moment for creativity is now. Societal challenges. We are, of course, seeing ever-increasing bifurcation between the rich and the poor. Those of us, and that's the elite in this room, including myself, that are technologically skilled, are earning more and more money, whereas the rest of the population is falling further and further behind. It is no wonder then that people are starting to throw Molotov cocktails. And if Mr. Zuckerberg has his way, we need to soon think about the metaverse and what kind of social dynamics are going to be unleashed there. Let's hope it's not going to be what I call a Mad Hatter verse. If you know literature, you know the reference there. That is something to be watched and to be shaped. I'm trusting Hamburg, Germany, Europe will be part of that. And we need to counteract tribalism. Lastly, technical and commercial challenges. We will explore those here today, so I'm going to not touch too much on that here. Just three buckets: data access and data relevance. How are we going to get data into Europe? Because Europe is not harnessing enough data power. Can we do it in Africa? Can we do it in China? We're trying, but data relevance is not the same in Africa as it is in Europe, or appropriateness, I should say. Talent, number two. Europe has lots and lots of talent, not at the same scale as China and the United States, but it is top-notch. We need to teach that talent with the help of people like Ragnar and Petra who have scaled out globally how to do that. There aren't enough entrepreneurs in Europe who have done that and who can help the next generation do it. We need more collaboration with America to make that happen, because that's where the scale is, if nothing else. Compute power, edge computing is coming. Yes, that's going to be a saving grace. We no longer need large cloud systems in order to get access to data. Privacy assurance goes with that. That's a big trend for us. So lots and lots of opportunity for us to harness. Hopefully, Hamburg will be part of this. And let me just close out with this slide here saying we're going to be treating some of these problems here today. We're going to be talking about, of course, first and foremost about healthcare. There is huge promise here in Europe. I think America is right up there with Europe. Different paradigms. We'll explore this. We'll have spirited conversations about this. And then, of course, we're going to be dealing with logistics as well. That's big. Europe is big into logistics. Some real big players, SAP being one of them, globally in smart supply chains. We're going to be dealing with the enterprise track, enterprise services, with some of my colleagues at Microsoft and IBM from the United States. And, of course, our friends from Otto as well, a shining example of innovation, in my humble opinion. And then finally, climate and sustainability. Why? Because that is the biggest societal problem. And the challenge for us as entrepreneurs is that, and it was said yesterday, I can't remember who it was, remind me if you remember, that we have to do good while we do well, and we have to do well by doing good. The cognitive era is both. It must not be the 1980s. It must not be, Internet 1.0, where it was all about marketing to people and getting them to buy. This has to be a joint effort for both private good and public good. So with that said, I want to thank you. If you have any questions, I stand ready throughout the day and the night, as I said, until about 9:30, and then I have to go teach. Thank you very much for your attention.